Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and tonight we're going to be looking at interdimensional UFOs, theories on them, and where they are, where they come from, which unit, who are they, and stuff like that. Those kinds of theories tonight. So we're going to have some fun. So sit back and enjoy my live stream. But first, while we wait for people to gather in the chat, let me go off and show off some artwork from my own upcoming graphic novel, Scumdogs. Here's my extreme 90s cover. This cover I did to harken back to the comic book boom of the 90s with the extreme comic books they made back then. Scumdogs, the name of my graphic novel, is a parody book. I parody the cartoons from the 80s. You'll see a lot of characters that will remind you of watching cartoons when you were a kid on Saturday mornings. Only it's going to be turned up to 11 and it's going to be funny as hell. Now, the Scumdogs, they're supervillains who want to take over the universe. Think of them as more insane and sillier versions of the Decepticons from Transformers or Cobra from G.I. Joe. You get the idea. Now, the Scumdogs are led by Deathmug. He's the purple guy with the metal mask over here. He's based on various villains from 80s cartoons. You can see it in the way he's designed. Like Skeletor from He-Man, he has a metal skull for a face. Well, he has a skull for a face like Skeletor from He-Man. It's also, as you see, a metal mask that looks very much like the mask of Cobra Commander from G.I. Joe. Yeah, and stuff like that. Looks very much like it. He's an arrogant, overblown dictator who wants to rule the universe. See, him and the Scumdogs used to be pro athletes. Because in the future, there's such a thing known as transhumanism, where you basically transform yourself through genetics or technology into a superhuman. Well, in the future, there was also something known as the Scumdog Sports, sporting events held with superhuman athletes who basically transform themselves either through science or magic into a superhuman monster to become a competitor in these sporting events. But what happens when they get banned from sports? The Scumdogs decide to take over the universe, and that's what we have here. You can see Deathmug fighting his archenemy, Buick Starpoon, the guy with the pink pompadour hair over here. Buick Starpoon is an arrogant, overblown military jerk. He's one of those military guys who never listens to anyone, always gets him and his team, the Wild Rangers, up over their heads in the worst possible situations, but only get out of it by shooting everything in sight and doing a lot of collateral damage to the surrounding area. Now, Buick Starpoon is, him and his team are basically G.I. Joe parodies, but if you notice from his uniform how it looks like something from Star Trek, they're also a parody of Star Wars and Star Wars characters from space operas. You can see the way he looks. He looks like a character from Star Trek, doesn't he? Now, Buick Starpoon, as I said, and his team, they're basically G.I. Joe parodies, which means they have an aspect from G.I. Joe known as military specialties. That's the thing. If you read on the back of a package that G.I. Joes would come in, it would list their military specialty. Military specialties are special skills and ability each soldier had that made them great for fighting Cobra. And in this case, the Scumdogs. So let's take a look at the other members of Buick Starpoon's team and learn about them. Over here, we have this guy with the mohawk known as, Roadhog. His military, he's the guy in the darker blue uniform over here. His military specialty is that he was part of the United States Army. Then he joined up with the Wild Rangers to fight the fight and stuff. Then we have this bald guy with a gun down here in the lighter blue uniform. His name is Beach Pounder. His military specialty is that he's a Marine. Then you have this guy back here in the red uniform driving that vehicle. His name is Blast Tank. His military specialty is that he's a heavy vehicle specialist, otherwise known as a tanker. He drives around heavy vehicles and fights the Scumdogs. Now, this cover is one of 3 different variant covers you can back when my Indiegogo goes live, so you have that to look forward to too. Looks pretty good, huh? Now let's go over here and look at Girl Friday. Girl Friday is another member of the Wild Rangers. She is Buick Starpoon's second in command. She's basically a parody on the Girl Friday archetype kind of character. If you don't know what a Girl Friday type character is, it's usually a female soldier that's in love with their superior officer and follows them around like a little puppy. The joke here is that Girl Friday hates Buick Starpoon's guts because she blames him for the fact her career is now basically, minding and sitting the Wild Rangers and making sure they do their jobs right. See, because the Wild Rangers basically fight the scum dogs every day and save the universe, but they only do so by, well, doing a lot of collateral damage. That was basically pissing off people and making them angry. So her superiors in the Space Force send Girl Friday to basically come to the Wild Rangers and make sure they do their jobs right. And she hates her job because she doesn't like Buick Starpoon and stuff like that. She hates his guts. Here we have Hair Middle Doctor. Hair Middle Doctor is another member of the Scum Dogs. As you see, he's a regular human. Well, sort of a regular human. He's a parody of a character from G.I. Joe known as Dr. Mindbender, a mad scientist. But my mad scientist has been crossed over with a rocker because I think that's awesome to have as a villain. He thinks of he was hired by Death Mug to think of all the machines and stuff they use to try and take over the universe. He does it while being Hair Middle Doctor. And here we have Miss Brusty Melons. As you see, she's another member of the Scum Dogs, and she's also human. See, she is a parody of a character from G.I. Joe known as the Baroness, one of those femme fatale spy characters. And yeah, they're both sexy, but the thing here is Miss Brusty Melons is a dumb blonde from California. She used to run her own company. She was the CEO of it, but she got bored of it and decided to join the Scum Dogs and be a villain for fun. All right, we looked at this. Not too bad. 6:30 in. Now, folks, please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read Comics They're Bad for You, okay? The there in the title is misspelled. It's THERE. Or you can use as well as remember this. If you want to watch this video again as soon as it's done, go to past live streams on my YouTube channel, or you can use the link on the pinned tweet on my YouTube page. You can use the pinned tweet on my Twitter page, which is at 777 MegaChris1. Hit that like button and also hit that bell for notifications, okay? And make sure to hit the part of the notification bell that will give you all future notifications. And please share this video out on Twitter and Facebook. All right, folks, now we're going to go over here and look at some Indiegogos real quick. Let me go over here. Here's Pirate Queen. Here's Mike Baron's Thin Blue Line, which is made 21,750 with 28 days left. Not bad. Let's take a look at it. It's made 21,750 now. Okay, let's look at the trailer for this book.
Beginning with issue number 1, Mike Baron wrote Marvel's The Punisher for over 5 years, approaching it as a straight crime comic, without any superheroes, aliens, or robots. Over the course of 60 issues, Baron elevated the gritty anti-hero into one of the most popular and enduring characters in the Marvel Comics universe. Now he brings that same ultra-realistic intensity to his latest graphic novel, Thin Blue Line. In the middle of a long, hot summer, a police shooting ignites the city. Activists, opportunists, and provocateurs descend to riot, loot, burn, and kill. Thin Blue Line follows Officer Valeria Baca and her partner as their detail guarding the mayor turns into a battle for survival. Right along on this heroic tale of two brave law enforcement officers fighting for their community and their own survival in a world gone mad. Eisner winner Mike Baron has created an alarming tale that unflinchingly examines human fallibility on every level. Along with penciler Joe Arnold, himself a full-time police officer, and talented anchor Jeff Slemons, they've created a moving and entertaining story ripped straight from today's headlines. Thin Blue Line exposes the defund the police movement and its consequences for society, but several comic book companies have refused to publish it. Now we're asking you to join the effort to distribute it independently and help support the men and women of law enforcement. Get your copy of the only graphic novel to offer an unflinching and not always flattering look at the men and women of law enforcement during a time when we need them the most. Not all heroes wear capes.
That's Thin Blue Line. You can back it on Indiegogo, folks. This book was from Mike Baron. It looks good. You can back this book and get the digital version, the digital version for $10, or you can get the print version, which is $25. 56 full color pages, proudly printed in the USA. You have other perks as well. You can get the Officer Assist whole package, which is $120. You get, Officer Assist. Join our SWAT team and suit up with the following 2 copies of the book. One for sharing, the digital version, autographs of the creative team, your name printed in the book for persons of interest page, the limited edition sticker set, a commemorative. You get a challenge coin, certificate of your contribution, and any unlocked swag. Let's see. Physical copy of the book, digital PDF copy, duplicate main cover book. That means you get 2 main physical copies of the book. Donation certificate, ride-along coin, police assistance donation. Looks good, huh? That's one. There's other perks as well. So go check out Thin Blue. Yeah, go and check out Thin Blue Line. It's up on Indiegogo, folks. Is great there. All right, let's go over here. Let's see. Crazy Nine, super drug that unleashes your inner power. It's made $350 with 30 days left. Let's take a look at this real quick. Crazy Nine, allow your mind to wander into a vibrant urban jungle, teeming with color and excitement, where unique and entrancing characters greet you in every corner, each with their own destiny, each with their own secrets. A young woman stands in the road, running her fingertip through a waterfall of blonde hair. She catches your eye. The stainless steel barrel of a gun glistens in the most sunshine as it rests against her temple. She pulls the trigger. She is now infected with the drug Crazy Nine. Soon she will know her destiny. The Super Noir, not doing too bad. The artwork looks pretty good. The artwork, the artwork is, well, cartoony looking. Not bad. Not bad. Honestly, it looks pretty good. You can back this book, Headshot, $10. Crazy Nine full color 60-page comic in print. $10 for a 60-page comic book. That's good. Let's look at this trailer.
Allow your mind to wander into vibrant urban jungles, teeming with color and excitement, where entrancing characters greet you on every corner, each with their own destiny and secrets. A young woman stands in the road, running her fingertips through a waterfall of violet hair. She catches your eye. The stainless steel barrel of a gun glistens in the moonlight as it rests against her temple. She pulls the trigger. She is now empowered by the drug Crazy Nine. Crazy Nine is a new drug which can unlock a distinct superpower that resides inside everyone. Encased in a bullet, administered via a shot to the head, resulting in invisibility, super strength, telekinesis, or any power hidden in their subconscious mind.
Hi, my name is Joe Spicer. I created Crazy Nine, which is a story about a drug.
All right, you get the idea here. I think I want to listen to the rest of that video so you get the idea. That's not too bad. Let's see. Let's look at some other Indiegogos real quick. Here's Pirate Queen. Let's see. Pirate Queen, you can back this book for $25. You have a choice of three different covers. Cover A and cover B, and you have a third cover, cover C, which is a naughty cover. Each of them looks good. You can also back for the Keisha action figure, get an action figure of Ava, of the main character, the main character and stuff like that. Bloodstone for $10. That's pretty good. Let's see. Let's look at this trailer real quick.
Dive into adventure with the Pirate Queen. Plunge your sword deep into that pirate booty. Stare in awe of that magnificent pirate chest. The Pirate Queen races across the universe in another all-out, action-packed galactic adventure. Don't miss out. The Pirate Queen.
All right. All right, looks good. That was The Pirate Queen. Go back it. It's up on Indiegogo. You can back it. This book is from Mandy Summer. It's made 30,990. It's got 17 days left. So go back it, folks. All right, looks pretty good, huh? Now, we looked at some Indiegogos. I think now we'll go over here and look at the interdimensional hypothesis. Where do UFOs and aliens really come from? We have a few articles on this. For as long as we have reported sightings of UFOs and cryptids, we have simultaneously been formulating theories as to where they come from. Well, there are more theories out there that seek to explain where these things come from than I could possibly cover in one post. I've decided to spend a little time discussing one of the most popular of the interdimensional hypotheses. What is the interdimensional hypothesis? The interdimensional hypothesis is an idea advanced by ufologists such as Jacques Vallée that states that UFOs related events of a paranormal nature involve visitations from other realities or dimensions. The idea proposes that these alternate realities exist separately yet parallel to our own. To many, the interdimensional hypothesis is viewed as an alternative to the popular extraterrestrial hypothesis. It should be noted, however, that this isn't necessarily an alternative to the extraterrestrial hypothesis, as the two hypotheses are not mutually exclusive and both could be true simultaneously. According to Wikipedia, the interdimensional hypothesis also holds that UFOs are a modern manifestation of a phenomenon that has occurred throughout recorded human history, which is in prior ages were ascribed to mythological or supernatural creatures. Although the extraterrestrial hypothesis has remained the most primary explanation for UFO by ufologists, there have been many ufologists that have abandoned it in favor of the interdimensional hypothesis. Paranormal researcher Brad Stricker wrote, for example, that we are dealing with a multidimensional paraphysical phenomenon that is largely indigenous to planet Earth. In addition, the reason that so many ufologists adopted the interdimensional hypothesis has been due to the fact that the distance between stars makes interstellar travel impractical using conventional means, and nobody has demonstrated anti-gravity or faster-than-light travel hypothesis that explained the extraterrestrial machines with the interdimensional hypothesis. It is unnecessary to explain any propulsion method because this particular hypothesis holds that UFOs are not spacecraft, but rather devices that travel between realities. Another advantage of the interdimensional hypothesis offered by Hilary Evans is it's the ability to explain a UFO's ability to appear and disappear from sight and radar in an instant. This is explained by the interdimensional hypothesis as the UFO entering and then exiting our dimension, or rather materializing than dematerializing. Evans also argues that if the other dimension is slightly more advanced than our own, or is perhaps our own future, this would explain why UFOs' tendency to represent near-future technologies such as airships in the 1890s or rockets in the 1940s. Are the aliens us? In discussing the interdimensional hypothesis, we must also discuss the fact that, according to theory, that the UFOs that we see in the sky all over the world may in fact be us. That is to say, a future version of us who has mastered the landscape of time and space, able to bend them to their will. If this theory were true, then stories of people coming into contact with strange beings represent our distant human descendants returning from their own time. Maybe, though the Greys, honestly, I think could possibly be bioandroids or something. But there have been reports of people encountering humans on these spaceships and stuff like that, to study us in part of their own evolutionary past. This idea has been advanced before, however. A more recent book entitled Identified Flying Objects, a multidisciplinary scientific approach to the UFO phenomenon, takes us a fresher look at this idea and offers some thought-provoking arguments. This book, written by Michael Masters, a professor of biological anthropology at Montana Technological University in Butte, presents Masters' idea that given the accelerating pace of change in fields such as engineering, science, and technology, it is very likely that humans from the distant future could develop both the machinery and knowledge necessary in order to go back in time. Masters says that the objective of his book is to inspire a new and more informed discussion about the interdimensional hypothesis amongst believers and skeptics alike. I took a multidisciplinary approach in order to try and understand the oddities of this phenomenon. Our job as scientists is to be asking big questions. Anyone got a good idea here? This looks very interesting, huh? The interdimensional hypothesis. I might have covered this before in another video, but I'm doing a more dedicated video on it, on this subject here, because I have a few articles here I want to look through. Because to try to find answers to unknown questions. There's something going on here, and we should be having a conversation about this. We should be at the forefront of trying to find out what it is. Michael Masters. In the book, Masters dubs these visitors from the distant future as extraterrestrials, noting that the Close Encounters reports typically describe these interdimensional beings as hairless, bipedal, human-esque beings with large eyes, large brains, small noses, and small mouths. Masters states that these creatures are often said to have the ability to communicate with us in our own language, and technologies that, while far advanced, seem to be built upon the technological prowess of today's times. But why not argue that aliens are actually a traveler from across the vastness of space from a distant planet? To this, Master says, I would argue it's the opposite. We know we're here. We know humans exist. We know that we've had a long evolutionary history on this planet. And we know we know our technology is going to be more advanced in the future. I think the simplest explanation innately is that it is us. I'm trying to offer what is likely the most presumptuous, was the most accurate portrayal, explanation, the most accurate explanation. Solving the mystery of interdimensional hypothesis. Masters postulates that using a multidisciplinary scientific approach to the UFO phenomenon will be what it takes to solve the mystery once and for all, and I couldn't agree more. The premise that UFOs are us from the future is one of many possibilities that MUFON is exploring to explain the UFO phenomenon. All we know for sure is that we are not alone. Now the question becomes, who are they? And Masters makes a great case for the time traveler hypothesis. John Harzan, executive director of the nonprofit Mutual UFO Network, MUFON. While there are many that find something interesting to be said about the interdimensional theory and the claims of Michael Masters, there seems to be just as many that find that claim to be dubious at best. One such skeptic is Robert Schaefer, a noted UFO skeptic. There's nothing in this book to take seriously, as it depends on the belief that time travel is not only possible but real, said Robert Schaefer. Further, Schaefer believes that Masters' explanation for interdimensional beings that are a version of us from the distant future is a huge claim to make, saying so. According to Masters, you just spin something fast enough and it will begin to warp space and even send stuff backwards in time. That is a highly dubious claim. So what do you think about this interdimensional hypothesis? Is it possible that UFOs and aliens are in fact just versions of us from the future? Is it possible that they are our descendants coming back to visit us, and that their journey to our world is motivated by a sort of archaeological tourism in which they hope to learn more about their evolutionary roots? Or, as Robert Schaefer believes, do you think this theory has little evidence behind it? Is it nothing more than a frivolous claim based on the wild imagining of UFOologists? I'd be interested to hear what you think about it. Okay, we looked at that article. We also have this article over here. I hope it covers some more things. Interdimensional beings, aliens from dimensions that coexist alongside our own. This one might tell it that aliens actually come from another universe, other dimensions and stuff. So we're looking at this one as well. The definition of interdimensional beings or interdimensional intelligence is usually described as a theoretical or real entity that exists in a dimension beyond our own, despite the fact that such beings are believed to exist only in science fiction, fantasy, and the supernatural. There are numerous ufologists who refer to them as real beings. The interdimensional hypothesis. This is another look at the theory and stuff like that. So we're going to look at this now. The interdimensional hypothesis was proposed by a number of ufologists like Jacques Vallée, who suggests that unidentified flying objects, UFOs, and related events such as alien sightings imply visits from other beings from other realities or dimensions that coexist separately with us. with ours. Some have referred to these beings. By the way, folks, please hit that like button for me, will you? It really helps me fight the algorithm. As well as please go hit that bell for notifications and make sure to hit the part of the bell that will give you all featured notifications. And please share this video out on Twitter and Facebook. Visitors from another universe. In other words, Vallée and other authors suggested aliens, as we get back to this article, I should say. Let's get back to this. Being as visitors from another universe. In other words, Vallée and other authors suggest that aliens are real, but exist not in our dimension, but in another reality that coexists with our own. All right. This theory is an alternative to the extraterrestrial hypothesis, which suggests that aliens are advanced spacefaring beings that exist in our universe. The interdimensional hypothesis argues that UFOs are a modern manifestation of a phenomenon that has occurred throughout recorded human history, which in earlier times was attributed to mythological or supernatural creatures, ancient astronaut theory. What if aliens are travelers from another dimension? Does that mean we are alone in the universe after all? Image. But interesting idea. Let's get to this. But despite the fact that modern ufologists and millions of people around the globe believe we are not alone in this universe, many ufologists and paranormal researchers have embraced the interdimensional hypothesis, suggesting that it explains the alien theory in a much smoother way. Paranormal investigator Brad Stryker wrote that we are dealing with multidimensional paraphysical phenomenon that is largely originating from planet Earth. We've read this before and stuff like that, but I'm hoping that we come across the more alien aspect of interdimensional beings, things that aren't human, or rather are not us from the future, or basically, or maybe I should say that are so far different from us, they might as well be from another planet. That's what I'm asking here. Let's get back to what we were doing here on reading this article. Let's get back to this article. Other ufologists, such as John Ankerberg and John Wilden, who also favor the interdimensional John Wilden, who also favor the interdimensional hypothesis, argue that UFO sightings fit in the spiritualist phenomenon, commenting on the disparity between the extraterrestrial hypothesis and the reports that people have made of UFO encounters. Ankerberg and Wilden wrote that the UFO phenomenon simply does not behave like extraterrestrial visitors. The interdimensional hypothesis took a step further in the book UFO Operation Trojan Horse, published in 1970, where author John Keel linked UFOs to supernatural concepts such as ghosts and demons. Some advocates of the extraterrestrial theory have embraced some of the ideas set forth by the interdimensional hypothesis. All right. Because it does a better job explaining how aliens could travel in space across vast distances. The distance between the stars will make interstellar travel impractical using conventional means, and since no one has demonstrated an anti-gravity engine or any other machine that would allow a traveler to move across the cosmos at speed faster than light, the interdimensional hypothesis makes much more sense. According to this theory, is it not necessary to use any method of propulsion because it maintains that UFOs are not spacecraft but devices that travel between different realities? However, they still need to get from one reality to the other, right? One of the benefits of the interdimensional hypothesis, according to Hilary Evans, a British pictorial archivist, author, and researcher into UFOs and other paranormal phenomena, is that it can explain the apparent ability of UFOs to appear and disappear not only from sight, but from radar, as the interdimensional UFOs can enter and leave our dimension at will, meaning that they have the ability to materialize and dematerialize. On the other hand, Evans argues that if the other dimension is slightly more advanced than us, or is perhaps our own future, this would explain the tendency of UFOs to represent technologies close to the future. Declassified FBI document rings from other dimensions exist. While all of the above may sound like something coming from a sci-fi movie, there's a peculiar declassified top secret document in the FBI archives which speaks of interdimensional beings and how their spacecraft have the ability to materialize and dematerialize in our own dimension. Here it is. Hmm. Hmm. Here is a transcript of some of the most important details of the report. Part of the discs carry crews, others are under remote control. Their mission is peaceful. The visitors contemplate settling on this plane. These visitors are human-like but much larger in size. They are not exocarnate Earth people, but come from their own world. They do not come from a planet as we use the word, but from an etheric planet which interpenetrates with her own, is not perceptible to us. The bodies of the visitors and the craft automatically materialize on entering the vibratory rate of our dense matter. The disk possesses a type of radiant energy or a ray which will easily disintegrate any attacking ship. They re-enter the etheric at will, and so simply disappear from our vision without a trace. The reason, they re-enter the etheric at will, and so simply, Okay, you get the idea that they disappear and reappear. They disappear into the etheric plane when they want to disappear. The region from which they come from is not the astral plane, but corresponds to the locus or talus. Students of esoteric matters will understand these terms. They probably cannot be reached by radio, but probably can be by radar, if a signal system can be devised for that. So you get the idea of it. Here's another theory on interdimensional beings. That was an interesting one. An interesting little theory there. So what do you think about that, folks? Reading these stories about interdimensional beings and whatnot and stuff like that. I have a few. Declassified FBI document brings beings from other dimensions visit Earth regularly. We could look at this one, but we also have these articles over here. Let's see, and stuff. Let me go over here. Bigfoot from multi dimensions to wormholes and the mystery of Mothman. This could be talking about people say Bigfoot is a multi-dimensional being as well as Mothman being one as well. We could look at that theory, but I have this one over here to look it through as well. Declassified FBI document brings from other dimensions visit Earth regularly. Okay. The definition for interdimensional beings or interdimensional intelligence is usually ascribed as a theoretical or real entity that exists in a dimension beyond our own, despite the fact that such beings are believed to exist only in science fiction, fantasy, and the supernatural. There are numerous ufologists who refer to them as real beings. The interdimensional hypothesis. Is this the same article we read before, just in a different format or something? This might be the same article we read a little earlier. So I might want to go to a different video. But what do you think about interdimensional beings, folks? Are aliens actually interdimensional? Are there dimensions out there where there are non-human entities that are different from us, that look different from us? Are there also universes out there where there are humans who have mastered interdimensional travel and use their ships to visit us, as well as that? Could it be? I don't know, but there certainly is. There is slight evidence because people who have said they've been abducted by aliens said they've seen both non-human intelligences like the Greys or other creatures like the big black cats from England and stuff like that. I can't remember. Or big black dogs on spaceships. So maybe these creatures can shapeshift or alter their forms, as well as Dogman, it being said to be an interdimensional being. But there are also other stories about these beings basically being repelled by Christian symbols. So there also considers the fact that maybe these interdimensional beings are demons. We have to consider that as well. Could very well be. It's all highly entertaining to read about. And please leave me a few chats. I want to hear your ideas on this, folks. What are interdimensional beings? I probably should read more of this article, but I'm not so sure if I haven't read this before. The interdimensional hypothesis was proposed by a number of ufologists like Jacques Vallée, who suggests, that unidentified flying objects, UFOs, and related events such as alien sightings imply visits from beings from other realities or dimensions that coexist separately with ours. Some have referred to these beings as visitors from another universe. In other words, Valet and other authors suggest that aliens are real but exist not in our dimension but in another reality that exists with their own. Could very well be. All right. Let's see, get back to this. This theory is an alternative to the extraterrestrial hypothesis, which suggests that aliens are advanced spacefaring beings that exist in our universe. Now, this sounds like the other article I read basically started somewhat the same way, but then it veered off into different areas as well. I'm not too sure I should read another article right here that might just be a copy of the other one, of an earlier copy of an earlier article we just read, folks. So maybe I should go over here and look at some of these articles and stuff like that. Some bizarre and controversial UFO photos from the 1970s and 80s, a conspiracy cover-up, and the amazing lost Big Sur UFO footage. Surfing the vault for UFOs, the FBI's flying saucer documents are growing. I could look at some of these. Airship scare of 1896. But really, a strange Native American tale of a crashed UFO. It's all very interesting. I have a few articles here to read through. I'm trying to find articles on... I've already read a few of these which mentions that UFOs could be from other dimensions or from the future. But maybe I should be looking at... the objects may possibly be ships from another planet, such as Mars. Your former U.S. Air Force officer plans to reveal evidence of UFOs tampered with nuclear weapons. That's an article we can look through, October 12th. It also mentions that could be that there is theories that these creatures come from another universe, or maybe they're from another universe, but it's still our Earth. They're from another dimension that's still connected to our Earth, and that's why they're interested in making sure that we can't use nuclear weapons. Because if we destroy the Earth in a nuclear war, they'll also die too, even if they are from another dimension. Because wherever they're from will still be affected by the Earth being killed in this dimension. So that's why they come here, and this is why they said that the UFOs interfered with nuclear weapons. So maybe I should look at this first. But then again, there's this other article we looked in. The interdimensional... Let's get back to this article real quick. If it's just more of the same thing we've read and nothing new we read, I'll move on to the article. Okay, folks? The interdimensional hypothesis argues that UFOs are a modern manifestation of a phenomenon that has occurred throughout the recorded human history, but in earlier times was attributed to mythological supernatural creatures, ancient astronaut theory. But despite the fact that modern ufologists and millions of people around the globe believe we are not alone in the universe, many ufologists and paranormal researchers have embraced the interdimensional hypothesis, suggesting that it explains the alien theory in a much smoother way. Paranormal investigator Brett Stringer that we are dealing with it. I don't see anything new. The interdimensional hypothesis took a step further in books UFO Operation Trojan Horse. This is according to the theory. This looks too much like the earlier articles I've read, so I'm just going to move over here, folks. Former U.S. Air Force officers plan to reveal evidence of UFOs tampered with nuclear weapons. Let's look at this. No one will ever say retired U.S. Air Force Captain Robert Salas is a quitter. In 1967, he tried to get his commanding officers to respond to UFOs over Maelstrom Air Force Base in Montana after all 10 Minutemen, one nuclear-tipped missiles, ICBMs, at the base shut down due to failures in their guidance and control systems, immediately following their appearance above the base. He was told to keep quiet. He tried, but found that other people in the military at the same time were not keeping quiet about the incident, nor a similar one 8 days before at another missile base in 2010. He co-sponsored with UFO researcher Robert Hastings the first UFOs and nukes press conference in an attempt to get the U.S. Congress to address this mysterious security violation and others in public in 2020. Salas decided the best way to accomplish this is from the inside. He ran for Congress, but was defeated in a primary. Did that stop him? This is Robert Salas we're talking about. If I've read this article before, folks, I'm sorry, but I just thought I'd look into it because we are talking about interdimensional UFOs tonight. Here's a missile and stuff like that. And this is what they said the UFOs interfered with its, let me go over here. Their guidance and control systems. Yeah, apparently the UFOs affected their guidance and control systems, making them basically useless. That is interesting to think about. let's see if I can't. Let's read this part about what this guy has to say. Huh? Let's see it. Let's read it. It is time for the U.S. Congress to hold public hearings on the unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAP. There are many ex-military witnesses who can verify UFO incidents of nuclear weapons bases. All funds from this fundraiser will be used to support press conference and lobbying activities in Washington, D.C. with some of these witnesses. The coming months. The current period in time represents a unique opportunity to promote open and public disclosure of long-held secrets by government agencies. Any amount would be appreciated. Thank you. Salas stated in a GoFundMe fundraiser to pay for a press conference and congressional lobbying activities. The fundraiser reached its goal on October 19th, 2021. From 8:30 to 11 o'clock a.m., the press conference will take place at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., and will be open to specified guests, credentialed media, and congressional staff. Robert Salas, former USAF captain and nuclear missile crew Commander Robert Jamerson, former USAF captain and nuclear missile targeting officer David Shimdale, former USAF captain and nuclear missile crew commander, and Robert Jacobs, former USAF lieutenant and missile test photographic officer, will form the panel. What will they reveal? A panel of former U.S. Air Force officers will discuss their involvement in UFO incidents and nuclear missile launch facilities and test sites during the Cold War era. Witness affidavits that substantiate the reality of UFO activity at nuclear weapon sites will be available. According to the press release, they will present declassified U.S. government documents and witness testimony from former or retired U.S. Air Force personnel as evidence of ongoing incursions by unidentified aerial objects at nuclear missile sites over several decades. So it won't be just the 1967 Maelstrom incident, but many other UFO encounters by the Air Force, potentially spanning the Cold War to the present. Will this be the impetus to create faster and more complete public UFO disclosure by Congress? It will be because of a lack of effort on the part of Robert Salas if his evidence and that of his fellow retired officers is solid. How can Congress not respond? That's a joke. Congress can do nothing and get away with it, just as always has. What this press conference might accomplish is to encourage other former military eyewitnesses to come forward. Fear is a powerful motivator, and the more incidents of this kind can come to light, the more fearful and demanding the public will become. The only other thing that could happen with Salas has no control over is that another UFO security incident occurs at a military installation with witnesses from both the armed forces and the public. It would be a shame if it came to that dangerous point. Kudos to retired U.S. Air Force Captain Robert Salas and his team for never giving up the quest. We anxiously await them. Or we anxiously await this. All right. That was interesting. Do you think it is interdimensional? Do you think that interdimensional aliens caused that UFO incident? It does give you some credence. Some of these articles. Flying triangle UFOs, are they us from our future? Possibly. I could read this article. It's a new one. But I'm not quite sure. I mean, I know I'm sure it's a new one, but I'm not too sure it has anything to do with interdimensional aliens. We talk about future, people come to the future, and that is sort of what we are talking about here. But mostly I want to talk about, do alien creatures exist in other universes? So maybe I should look at that. All right, maybe aliens exist in other universes. Let's see if I can get something up here, huh? Parallel universes might be habitable. What is the nature of ghosts? Some alternative theories. Christian radio show calls Bigfoot a demonic virtual reality projection. 1965, bizarre year of truly bizarre interdimensional interlopers. We read that before. Psychological drugs and bizarre journeys to alternate dimensions. We could read that article. It does have stuff that we're doing here. The UFOs interdimensional. And that might give some credence to it. Not quite sure. But what really, folks, do you think it's real? Do you think these aliens come from other universes? Could be, could very well be. So maybe I should look at interdimensional interlopers. So try that. Truly surreal encounters with bizarre interdimensional interlopers. I think I read that one before. Strange encounters with bizarre middlemen and robotic humanoids. I read that one before. Incredibly surreal encounters with completely bizarre alien entities. Here's another one. I think I'll look at this one. I might have read this one before myself, but I'm not quite sure. Over the decades, there have been all manner of reports of encounters with beings and entities from beyond our understanding. These have taken many forms, including the familiar gray aliens, more reptilian creatures, and even insectoids. Yet, some reports get even weirder, that these way weirder, in fact, completely evading all reason and classification. Here we will look at the selection of various encounters with alien entities that are just about the most bizarre bonkers there have ever been. Starting in the 1950s, we have really weird accounts from 1954 of an unspecified location in the country of Canada. On July 2nd of that year, a 23-year-old Canadian miner named Nero here was out in the wilds when he saw a spherical object about 25 feet in diameter with a set of portholes around the edge and pieces of landing gear and something like a retractable antenna on top of it land in a nearby clearing to disclose three completely bizarre entities. They were described as being 13 feet tall with bluish-green skin and glowing bodies. Their heads held antennae on top of a single eye set within them and had 6 evenly distributed sets of arms tipped with crab-like pincers that clattered open and shut. The leader of the group apparently rushed Lazarzo and hit him with a psychic blow that knocked him to the ground. This is Nero Lazarzo. This is Nero here. Before they all got back into their craft and headed off at a great speed. From 1957, we have a strange case of a retired teacher, Miss Mary M. Starr. She claims that December 16th, 1957, she was in her home near Old Sybeck, Connecticut, when she was woken around 3 a.m. by a very bright light outside her room. When she looked outside, she could see a large hovering craft with big square windows hovering over her clothesline, and as she looked on, she could see entities moving about within. These truly bizarre creatures were about 4 feet tall with arms but no hands and transparent cubes for heads, with some sort of red core enscored within and rubbery bodies that surrounded them like skirts. The creatures ran about in front of the windows for a time, waving about their headless arms before the windows suddenly vanished as if had never been there, and the whole craft began to glow brightly, and they silently shot off into the night to leave her standing there in awe. Here's a picture of what they supposedly looked like. Now, that truly is truly alien entity I wanted to basically bring up tonight. Have to say, is it real or not? We don't know. But I've read this article before, so maybe I should move. I want to move on to a different thing, huh? Let's see. A very bizarre alien encounter at Godplay Woods in Indiana. Bizarre and spooky cases of pale crawler humanoids in residential areas. Possibly weird accounts of truly bizarre small shadow entities. Here's one that we could look at. Now, these shadow entities could be interdimensional aliens as well, so maybe we'll look at this article. Hauntings seem to come across in all shapes and sizes, covering a vast array of oddities and bizarreness, from ghosts to demons, shadow people, and everything in between. There's a mind-boggling array of different ghostly phenomenon to be found out there, yet some cases truly go beyond even the usual oddities to launch themselves out into the whole other realm of the strange. Here we will look at some of the many cases of tiny dwarf shadow entities that have unsettled, harassed, and even terrified people, which don't seem to be easy to characterize. One very odd and intriguing case was sent to me by Tara Omler, who in 2014 moved into a modest brick house in Hanover with her husband. At first, there were no issues with the place, no strange phenomenon whatsoever. But after 2 years, odd things began to happen. Tara tells me that it started with anomalous smells that would materialize out of nowhere, including such disparate and seemingly unconnected odors as bacon, blueberry muffins, fresh baked bread, cigars, and strong men's cologne. These smells would suddenly come out of nowhere and for no discernible reason, only to disappear just as abruptly with no apparent pattern or rhyme or reason to it all. It wasn't only them who detected these smells either, as guests would also mention it. This was all weird enough, but then a new bizarre phenomenon began, which took the form of what she calls the monkey ghost in the basement, which she says reminds her almost of a shadow spider monkey, she says of it. Ah, okay, is this another interdimensional creature? Is this an alien? What is this woman has been seeing, huh? The first time I remember the monkey ghost, we call it Nana. My fiance and I were downstairs doing laundry. One of our cats was down with us. She started growling at the far wall, then ran upstairs. We saw a black shape come out of the far wall, about 2 feet tall and on 4 legs. It had long, slender tail. We couldn't make out any facial features or if it had hair or fur. It kind of swayed back and forth, then ran along. Sorry, folks. Then ran along the floor into the wall on the other side of the basement. We were freaked the hell out. It only happens in the basement at the same point in the wall and runs into the same spot on the other side. It acts residual, but I have a feeling it's not. We've gotten used to it, so have our cats. It happens without reason and just is. Here's a monkey. Here's a picture of a monkey. Yeah. All right. Tara claims the strange shadow figure seems to follow a routine that rarely deviates from, although it seems to show an awareness of its surroundings and that it has at least a rudimentary intelligence and mind of its own rather than being an automaton, some sort of hauntings are called residual hauntings, in which what is seen is merely an event from the past and printed into reality like an image into film, just mindlessly replaying. But Tara does not think that this is the case here, she says. I'll say about 99.9% of the time Nana does the same thing over and over. It comes out of the wall and runs into the other wall at the other end of the basement. But there was this time when I was doing laundry and I was humming a song and Nana came out of the wall and I swear it kind of bounced to the beat of the song I was humming. That's why I think it's not residual. It's like teeny tiny differences sometimes. My fiance swears that Nana reached a hand out to him once. He was moving some furniture around for a few pool tables, and when Nana came out, my fiance was near its spot in the wall, and before it ran, it reached out to him. He just said, "Hey, Nana," and that was that. The puzzling thing about this case is that there doesn't seem to be any reason for why there should be a haunting at all on the premises, much less a ghostly monkey. They purchased the house from an elderly lady who had been living there since the 50s and had been the only owner. And when they contacted her, she claimed that she had never experienced any paranormal activity of any kind at the house. Tara also researched the history of the land itself and could only find that the rather mundane detail that a farm once stood there. Speaking with her neighbors also showed that no one around them had any sort of a strange phenomenon going on, with all of this making it hard to explain what could be causing it. She ended up using paranormal equipment down in the basement, and the only thing they picked up with a single time was a man's voice appear on EVP to say, "Hello there, just what is going on here, and why should the smells and the monkey ghost suddenly appear? And in fact, what is it in the first place? A ghost, a demon, something else?" It is certainly an interesting account. Yeah, all right. Another case came from a witness calling herself Jill. She's from New Hampshire. She moved into an old house with her family in 2008 and simply had no issues for several years until weird things began to happen around the house. It was all very nauseous at first, such as things being misplaced or turning up in strange spots. Salt would end up in the sugar bowl. Keys would be found in the fireplace. Dishes would turn up in the bathroom or the TV remote control in the microwave. It was all very odd, but Jill and her family mostly just kind of brushed it off. After this, there would be other subtly unsettling things that would happen. Things would fall off shelves, lights would suddenly turn off and on. And one occasion, the toilet flushed even though no one was in there. There was nothing overly menacing or spectacular about it. Bianca Zombie. Aloha, dude. Aloha, Bianca Zombie. Tonight we're looking at interdimensional UFO theories. We looked through a few theories and read the few theories. Now I'm going on to interdimensional stories and beings here. We looked at various interdimensional creatures that look different from us that I read from an earlier article that I've read before, but now we're looking at this article about strange, small, shadowy shadow beings and stuff like that. About the size of a child or smaller, about little shadowy creatures that some of these people think might be interdimensional beings, or maybe possibly that, as I said, we're looking at theories on interdimensional UFOs. So maybe these things are also aliens, and certainly they are strange. All right, let's get back to this article. It was all very nice at first. Family just brushed it off. After this, would be other subtle yet unsettling things that would happen. Things would fall off shelves. Lights would suddenly turn off and on. On one occasion, the toilet flushed, even though no one was in there. There was nothing overtly menacing or spectacular about any of it, but it was enough to creep everyone out. But then things escalated. It started one evening as Jill lay in bed to go to sleep. She claims she had just been starting to drift off into the zone between wakefulness and sleep when a sound snapped her awake. It had sounded like a sharp rap coming from the closet, and at first she almost thought it might have been her imagination, but then there was another rap, this time higher up, and what would have been the ceiling in the closet. For several minutes, Jill strained to hear any more noises, but everything was completely silent. That was when something happened that she cannot explain. She says of this: I was laying there, and minutes went by without another sound. I was starting to think I had imagined it after all, or that it was just the house settling. It's a really old house, but then I saw something up by the ceiling at the closet door. It looked like a very deep black shadow, but there was nothing to cast it, and it did not seem like a normal shadow to me. I sort of blinked a few times and stared at it, and then it moved. It sort of scurried across the ceiling all the way to the other side of the room to a pool of shadow in the corner of the ceiling. It really freaked me out because it looked like a really big spider, complete with spindly legs, only much bigger than anything that should have been there, around the size of a cat. This was when I got out of bed and picked up a hanger that had been laying on the floor. I still had this feeling there was a big-ass spider up there, even though I sensed on some level that this was impossible. And so I crept closer to the shadow on the ceiling, thinking I would poke it with the hanger if I saw it. But I could now see that there was nothing there. I went back to the bed, and though I was joking, I was losing my mind, and then the same scurrying shadow spider began scramble down the wall from the exact same spot I had just looked at, hurried across the floor to the closet door, and vanished. There were two loud raps from inside the closet, and then it was gone. I didn't sleep that night. I can tell you, the next morning I checked the closet, and it was exactly as it had always been, and exactly as it always was. I can't explain it at all. After this, there would be other occasions where her or her family members would see fleeting glimpses of a large black spider-like shape scurrying about, but they were never able to see it clearly and only appeared at night. This went on for years until they finally moved out, and Jill is not sure what happened after that, or if the new owners would have seen the thing or had any paranormal experiences in the home. She says she has no idea what it could have possibly been. How much more of this article is left? Awful long article. Oh, I think I can get through this. All right. Some cases seem to pass the point on to almost amorphous black blob or some kind of one such as witnesses Red user Radioactive Panda Bear, who claims that her experience with these entities began when she moved to a new city to live in a house with some friends. It began with her seeing shadows that darted about in all fours in several different areas of the apartment, usually between the hours of dusk and 10 p.m., and appearing as pitch black blob-like shapes, ever shifting through. They would occasionally take more humanoid forms. These blobs would get bolder as time went on, sometimes buzzing or flirting about her like moths around a flame, or approaching her as if curious, and she claims that both of her housemates saw them as well. She says of the strange entities. I've seen my dog react to them, so that put to the rest for me any consideration the entire phenomenon itself is a figment of my imagination. My cats used to chase the smaller cat-sized shadow blobs that dart around here. Maybe they still do, but I now largely keep the cats confined to 2 rooms of the house while we remodel. So I have not been able to keep track of their reactions. Lately, I mostly perceive the blobs either peripherally. Sometimes I get to see them almost straight on, yet I can't quite seem to focus somehow because they move just fast enough to stay out of the direct center of my vision. My roommate asked me tonight if there is any way to get rid of them. It's strange because I've never had any bad vibes or feelings, and I can usually pick up on when something is being aggressive and spiritually. But this just feels different. There's no reason, no feeling at all, no getting the chills or getting goosebumps, so I'm really not sure what they are. So far, these reports don't seem to point to anything too sinister. The entities not really displaying aggressive tendencies, but this is not always the case. In some cases, these entities appear to behave in a decidedly more menacing way, showing that they may perhaps be malicious and out to do harm. Take the account given by Redditor Hera Defani, who says that they encountered a seemingly quite unfriendly black blob in her home as she was taking care of her kids. She says that she had just put her 3 kids to bed and was doing some last-minute tending to them when she walked into the hall to be greeted by a pitch-black blob hanging from the ceiling like some kind of grotesque spider, she says. When I walked out to the hallway into the common room, I immediately felt like wasn't supposed to be in there. I kept going into the kitchen, and for some reason, I looked forward at the front door, and then in the entryway, I saw a black blob hanging from the ceiling in the corner. It was definitely not a shadow. I approached it and checked it for some stupid reason, and I could see that it was not flat against the wall like a shadow, but was roundish, almost like a cocoon, but more irregular. I could not see through it at all, but I could see irregularities in the color. It almost looked like it had brown spots, and it seemed to be moving just enough for me. And it seemed to be moving enough for me to tell that it was moving. I looked around anything to explain. I looked around for anything to explain what it explained it away, and I couldn't now that it's light out. I even see less of an explanation after I fed the baby and put her back down. I went back into our room and saw that both of our shadows were opened. Both of our shades were open. My husband was in the room across the hall from my daughter. I had the door open and would have been seeing him or my toddler leave. My oldest son's door was closed, and it makes a very distinct sound when it closes. We don't have a very big house, and sound carries extremely well, and I didn't hear a thing. It was eerily silent. I definitely felt like I was being watched, and that whatever it was that was hanging on my ceiling did not want me in the room. After all the experiences I've had, this is the first time I've felt threatened. I'm concerned for my kids. The 3-year-old is autistic and has other special needs, and I can't tell me something, and you can't tell me something is wrong. All right. And yet another report, Redditor 4San is Sale, who claims that he was actually rather violently physically assaulted by one of these things on 2 separate occasions. His report is like something out of a horror film and describes a very aggressive black blob, like blurry, limbless rat, which seemed to have no good intentions towards him and seemed intent on harming him towards some nefarious end. It seemed prone to attacking him in his sleep, as his harrowing account reads as follows. I was asleep this particular night, but suddenly awakened. When I woke, both of my arms were completely numb, and I could tell an odd thumping sensation on the bed inside the fold of my right elbow. I looked at it, and to my astonishment, there was a dark blob there. I was attacked, only for a lack of a better word. I almost entirely convinced that it was intact. The action it was performing would be best described as a very blurry, limbless rat trying to headbutt its way into my arm, and very rapidly. Now I say this, and it sounds like a demon, That sounds scary. I saw this and thought, what? My mind's playing tricks on me? I thought I took my numb left arm and flipped it into my numb right arm, where it was going to be accosted by this figment of my imagination. To my horror, it quickly leapt onto my left arm and started its pulsating. Okay, it's very odd. Sounds like a demon. Headbutt attack on the same spot on my left arm. This freaked me out. I just shot up out of bed like an excited Dracula, immediately on my feet from my lying position. But this time I had regained some feeling in my arms, and though they were still very tingly, I had a little more use of them. I started swatting the blob on my left arm with my right hand. The damn thing actually dodged, and after a few more attempts, it leapt back to my right arm and did its little pulsating headbutt again. It leapt back and did its little attack on the exact same spot as it originally was. The pulsating headbutt attack on the exact same spot as it was originally. By this time, my heart felt like it was going to burst, and I was freaking the hell out. I shook my body. Finally, I managed to throw the thing off of me. I lost it in the darkness and as it fell and saw it no more. I spent another half hour or so awake and watchful. But eventually convinced myself it was nothing and went to sleep. The experience became a memory that I never forgot but never left much credence to. I figured I was just having some weird nighttime hallucination. A few months later, after I left Seattle and came to Kansas, I had decided to go to college, but did not want to pay huge money for undergrads. So I was staying with my family for about a year until I got my own place. During this year, I had another encounter with a dark blob. The first one in Seattle occurred in August. I didn't recall the day, just the month. The following August, while staying with the family in Kansas, pardon me, folks, family, was when the second encounter happened. Again, I was sleeping. I woke and immediately realized that something was pulsating at my neck. I knew what it was immediately when I glanced over on my left shoulder, and a dark blob was doing the exact same headbutt attack at the side of my neck. This blob was significantly larger than the year before. I immediately started sweating at my neck, frankly, and managed to dislodge it. I was able to see it fall into the bed, and I was immediately staying on it. I even managed to track its movements onto the floor, where it ran under some clothes. I tried to follow it further and lost sight of it. I started searching under my clothes on the floor, and it was gone. I have not seen it since. What are we to make of these cases such as these? Just what sort of phenomenon are we looking at here? They don't seem to fit the mold of classic hauntings, nor do they really seem classifiable as shadow people. Indeed, they seem to be to almost make up their own geography of haunting altogether. Are they demons, imps, fairies, or something else altogether? Could they perhaps be some kind of interdimensional interlopers intruding upon our reality through a thin spot between our worlds? There is no way to really know. The cases like these serve as to carve their own very strange niche in the world, don't they? Yeah, they do carve their own very strange niche in the world. Now, folks, please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics They're Bad For You. We're ending this live stream, so go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics They're Bad For You. Remember, the there in the title is misspelled. It's THERE. If you want to watch this live stream again, as soon as I'm done making it, go to past live streams on my YouTube channel, or you can use the link on the use the link on the pinned tweet on my Twitter page, which is at 777 megachris1. That's at 777 megachris1. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that like button because it helps me fight the algorithm. And the more people that hit that like button means more people will see my content. It means my graphic novel Scumdogs comes out all the sooner. Hit that bell for notifications and make sure to hit the part of the bell for notifications that will give you all future notifications. Also, please go over and subscribe to the YouTube channels Stitched Together Pics, Robot Co-op, and Creepy Little Book. Remember, folks, I'll be back again tomorrow around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, or maybe 8 or 11 o'clock p.m. for another live stream. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining.